So you want to break into advertising and you're thinking to yourself, shit, what now? Well, in this episode, I talked to Chris Savage. He's Asia Pacific's leading communications expert, and he has nearly 40 years worth of experience across PR and running one of APAC's largest media and advertising communications companies. What he teaches us is actually something very simple, and it's how to introduce yourself properly and how to do that well. And he gives us some really good pointers about that too. Further to that, he also talks more broadly about what you need to do to succeed in your career as a grad, and some of the advice isn't quite what you'd expect it to be. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe below, and as always, enjoy the episode. Morning, Chris. Welcome to Shit What Now. How are you today?
Terrific. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Chris, for those who have just started watching the show, can you please tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, I've had I guess now 37 years in the communications industry. My technical craft, if you will, has been in public relations. So I spent the first 25 years of my career in the public relations industry. Then I had close to a decade, helping run the biggest communications group in Australia at the time, a group called STW that became WPP. It was a publicly listed company. We had $800 million of revenue, and we had 80 different agencies as part of our group, from media to advertising, creative, PR, branding and design, research, experiential, the full gamut. And then 6 years ago, in my mid-50s, I formed my company, the Savage Company. I had two goals. One is never to work for anybody else again, and the second one was never to have anybody work for me again. So I just wanted to work for myself, and that's what I do. I help businesses and individuals grow in our industry. You know, it's interesting to be on your show. I think this initiative is really great, Chris, and well done.
High five. Great.
I spent a lot of the first half of my career trying to help people break into our industry. And I'm delighted today to be able to talk about that again. Frankly, in the second half of my career, I shifted focus, and my focus has been on helping older dogs, girls and boys, get an extra 10 years in our industry. Because the challenges are, as well as in many industries, is to give people longevity and relevance in what is an ageist society and ageist industry. So it's great again to be talking about recruits and bringing talent into our industry, which is obviously very, very important.
Definitely. And what a great intro that was. And I think that's something that I'd love to touch on, Chris, because I feel like now that I'm on the other side of the hiring table, when I say, you know, it might sound like an amateur question as an interviewer, but I say, oh, just tell us a bit about who you are and what you're up to these days. And it tends to be a very top line, I guess, squiggly explanation of what that person does on a day-to-day basis. I'm keen to hear from you. What are some of your pointers for introducing yourself really well?
Look, first and foremost, you need to be bold. I like to act bigger than I am. I make claims about who I am and what I do and what I bring that are all based in truth, but I embellish them a little bit. And that's good, right? Because ultimately, when you're introducing yourself, particularly to a potential employer, you are selling. You're selling yourself. Now, I'm going to talk about introducing yourself, and then I'm going to give a tip on another way to go about it, okay? But what I like to do is to get very clear about what I bring to the party. If I was sitting next to you, Chris, on an airplane, and I said, you know, tell me what you do. And you said, you know, I'm an executive in advertising agency X. I'd say, no. Tell me what you bring. What is it about you that you bring to the party? To my clients and the agencies I'm involved in and the individuals I'm involved in, I bring energy. I energize growth. I'm a growth energizer. That's what I do. So I ask each of you who are listening to this, think about what it is that you are going to bring, whether it's creativity, whether it's resilience, whether it's persistence, whether it's great writing skills, whether it's your ability to persuade and influence, whether it's just your attitude, your chutzpah, your can-do, your mongrel, right? And then when you introduce yourself, say, what I do, what I bring is X, and it'll make you stand out from the others who say, well, I'd be a very good account executive. So what I like is always start your pitch by nailing the biggest challenge that your audience has got. If you're talking to, as let's say, a CEO of a creative agency, you might say something like, one of the biggest challenges for creative agencies today is to attract and retain the very best new talent coming into the industry. By hiring me, you're going to have someone that is part of that new breed of A-grade talent. But more than that, what I'm going to bring to the agency, what I'll bring to my role is, and make a bold claim, okay, within reason. So I like to start off by nailing the need that my target has got. Then I make a bold claim about myself. And then I go into the elevator pitch about me, which is I'll have 3 key points I want to make. With each point, I will make a statement that's kind of a tabloid statement. It's more a Daily Telegraph headline than it is a Financial Review headline. And then I'll give a couple of supporting points and an example. Okay. And I'll do that 3 times, and then I'll summarize by saying, so there you have it. What I'm going to bring is X, Y, and Z. Now, that's how you introduce yourself. But if you really want to introduce yourself, the best way to do it is this. Remember, in our industry, in life, if you're trying to persuade and influence, if you're trying to sell, if your prospect's talking, you're selling. And if you're talking, they are critiquing. So I'm much more in favor of you asking brilliant questions of the person that you're talking to. They might say, tell me about yourself. And you can say, well, just before I do, I've got 3 questions I'm just burning to ask you. And they'll say, okay. And then you ask these 3 questions that they go, whoa, that's insightful. Whoa, that's exactly the question I'm losing sleep about. Well, and they start talking and you're selling. Right, I remember I worked, sorry if I talk so much, Chris, but I get excited about this.
No, I think it's great. I was just going to add to that. I say by having, even though they are talking, you're actually in control of the conversation.
Well, you are, but they're also looking at you. And they're looking at you in terms of, how's this person going to be with my clients? Can I trust this person working with my clients or other stakeholders? And when they see you asking intelligent, insightful questions, they go, I like it. I like it. I can see this person is a communicator. You know, listening skills, questioning skills are the most powerful tool in your armory as a persuader and influencer and as a communicator. So that's really the best advice I can give about introducing yourself is get the other person talking as quickly as you can.
Absolutely. And to add to your point earlier around having a bold claim and supporting claims, it's almost like treating yourself like a brand.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. You know, I tell a story, Chris, that whenever I give a speech, I'm always asked to give an intro. And the intro, can you tell us about yourself? What's the intro we should read about you? And I always give them the intro that says, Chris Savage is Asia Pacific's leading communications expert. Obama. So when I go to turn up to the speech, the compere says, now on stage, welcome Chris Savage, Asia Pacific's leading communications expert, clap, clap, clap. And then the Financial Review journalist in the audience says, Chris Savage, Asia Pacific's leading communications expert said. Now, the truth is, I'm the only person who's ever called me that. But no one's ever said, no, you're not, Chris. Samantha is, okay? So I'm within reason. Make strong claims about yourself. Push yourself forward. Be bold. And it's got to have some substance. If you say you're a great writer, make sure you are a good writer, okay? but we are in the selling, we're in the persuading and influencing business, and we've got to be bold about pushing ourselves to the front. I was recently asked to give a talk to 80 women at one of my clients about imposter syndrome, right? And I knew nothing about it really. I researched it. And it was a lot of the vocab was that this is something that women suffer from. But men suffer, most of us suffer from this imposter syndrome, which means we don't feel worthy, right, Chris? Do you feel that sometimes?
No, 100%. I have to present to the Mumbrella judges tomorrow for Under 30 Achiever Award, and there are definitely times where you go, I mean, I'm being bold, but underneath the hood, you're kind of like questioning yourself, which in a way, I guess, is what keeps it on edge, right?
It is what keeps us on edge. And I think the imposter syndrome is something we need to be aware of and know that we will often feel, I feel this, and I say, here I am after, many would say, a successful career to date in our industry, and I'm in a position in life that is, many people would strive for and what have you, but every single day I wake up paralyzed by fear that I'm going to be found out as a fraud, lose everything, and end up on the street selling bananas. And that's imposter syndrome. So I'm saying be aware that there'll be voices in your head that talk you down, but be your own best PR person. Talk yourself up. Be bold.
You can do it. You can do it. You can do it.
All of that helps contribute towards you landing your job at an agency, which is what I want to touch on next.
Yes.
And how would you, if you could go back in time as a grad these days, how would you go about seeking out your agency of choice?
Well, in terms of agency of choice, clearly you need to do your research around an agency, what they do, what their culture's like, what other people that work there say about the place. Do they do, what are the things that energize you? Are they doing the kind of work you want to be involved in? Are they recognized in the industry? Are they a high stature business? And there are plenty of those around. There are the multinational agency groups, and they're great. And there are many strong and emerging independent agencies in Australia. It is a wave of independence coming through as well. Not that the multinationals are done. No way. There are some brilliant brands there and brilliant people working there. But I think, as a hiring manager, let's say, what I look for is, and my brother's a big guy in the recruitment industry, and he always says to me, and you would have heard this phrase, Chris, hire for attitude, train for skill. And I completely believe this in our industry. Yeah. And the attitude I'm looking for is, I want, I suppose I'd call it 100%ers, okay? I want people who are in 100%. I don't mean they have to devote their life to their role, but they are into life and the fullness of life 100%. People talk about work-life balance. To me, it's all the same thing. Work is, and life, it all merges. So you just got to be in 100%. You've got to be prepared to be someone who's up for learning for all of your career, that you're going to work on yourself harder than you're going to work on your job. So I'm always looking for attitude. Is this person 100%er? Are they going to lean into this role? So I would say you need to show that in the way that you approach a prospective employer and the way that you communicate. I look for interpersonal skills. They really are more critical than ever before. Someone that can hit it off with you, that has emotional intelligence. I can see quickly that you've got really good interpersonal skills, Chris, and that would have helped you to become one of these emerging leaders or high achievers in the under 30 category, because people like being with you, and you communicate well, and you make people feel good, and you get things done. You communicate hope and optimism in the way that you talk to people. Interpersonal skills, very, very important. The third thing I look for is attention to detail. Now, this might sound a little bit micro, but it's not. God is in the detail. And in our industry, where you're dealing with production and printing and scripts and clients, you need to get the detail right. You need to get the spelling of people's names right. You need to minimize errors. You need to, and then I also look, and I know this is a much underestimated attribute of a potential employee. You need to be able to write well. And I'm not talking about writing War and Peace, but I'm saying your emails, your correspondence with clients. You need to be able to write basic, good English, get the spelling right. Don't give me all your SMS cool jargon in emails, because they might get forwarded to the boss, and the vibe's a bit different. So I guess it comes down to communication skills as well. But attitude's the thing, right? And today, look, there's been a big shift in the employment market in the last 6 months in Australia. It's moved from the power being with the employer to the power being with the employee. The recruitment industry, the recruitment market, very high demand for talent coming into our industry. But employers are still looking for good talent, the right talent. And the right talent will move very, very quickly in our industry today. Show you've got the attitude, work on your communication skills, pay attention to the detail, and show that you're an all-in person. You're in for the journey of a career that is going to be constantly about learning, constantly about trying to improve, and you're not going to have a problem getting a job in this industry.
Totally. And what I love about that, Chris, is that it doesn't require a degree. All of those things you talk about are things that can just be learnt through effort, effectively.
That's exactly right. I am a fan of tertiary education. I'm a fan of education, quite frankly. I like people young people and for all your life to be learning, to be growing. So when I look at a potential employee, I always do look at what did they achieve at school and what did they do in an extracurricular sense? Were they involved in the Duke of Edinburgh? Did they captain a local netball team? What did they do, right? And then what did they do after school, between school and coming to see me? Let's say they're a school leaver or a grad coming to see me. I like degrees because it shows discipline, it shows a thirst for education, it shows a persistence. But I don't really look in great detail at what the degree's in. Right now, obviously, if it's a very specialized technical role, you need someone who is going to be able to translate English to French. You're going to make sure they might have a degree or qualification in French, right? But in our industry, there are all sorts of degrees that help set you up to be able to have a great career in our industry, because you're going to do a lot of on-the-job training as well.
So, Chris, today you've talked about a range of different skills, interpersonal as well as tertiary. Mm-hmm. What would be the one skill that you'd say someone would need to keep honing in on as they progress throughout their career?
Definitely, is it a skill or a habit? I guess it's both. And that would be to really sign up for continual learning. And, one of the most critical realities for new entrants coming into our industry that really didn't face me in my career to the same extent is you need to have really robust, what I call CQ. We all know about IQ, we know about EQ, emotional intelligence, but CQ is all about change intelligence. And because of what's happened with technology and transformation, there's going to be more change in our marketing, communications, creative industries, more change in the next 3 years than in my entire 37-year career. And graduates coming in, you've got 15, 20 lots of that, you've got, let's say, 10 lots of 30 years worth of change. So you've got to be up for learning. It doesn't matter what you've done so far in terms of life experience and tertiary education. That's given you a platform, and that's great. But you need to be up for learning. And if there's one idea I hope you can embrace, it's the concept of a nano degree. And a nano degree is every 3 months, identify something that you need to know more about in your role. It might be voice technology in marketing. It might be Bitcoin. It might be, new algorithms on Facebook. I don't know. Whatever it is, sign up for a nano degree for that quarter. And the nano degree, all it means is that you're going to spend 7 hours of focused attention learning about that topic over the next 3 months. Completely doable, right? It's 45 minutes a week, half an hour a week. Read a blog post, watch a TED talk, read a trade publication, speak to an expert. If you do 7 hours of focused study on that topic, guaranteed, you're going to know 5% minimum more about it than just about anybody in your company. And that's really one of the tricks of staying relevant and keep growing in your career, is be up for learning, constant learning, and staying 5% more knowledgeable about stuff that people expect you to know than anyone else in the room. And if you're doing that, at the end of the meeting, they're all going, whoa, glad Wendy was there. Oh, I'm glad George was in the room, because they brought stuff that others didn't. So be up for learning. It's never going to end. I'm learning more now in the last 5 years. I'm learning more now than I did in my previous 20 years. If you're green, you grow. And if you're ripe, you rot. Stay green for your entire career.
I love that analogy. And
thank you.
But further to that point, I think a lot of young grads coming in going, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. I need to know about this, need to know about that. As you said, there's so many different things you can learn about, especially in our world of advertising and communications. And I guess one point to that, a great bit of advice I had from an ex-colleague was you only need to know only slightly more to look like an expert. And so it doesn't meet, to your point, it just shows how easy it can be. As you say, a half an hour a week, or, you just dedicate 45 minutes to your evening listening to a podcast while you go for a walk or something.
Exactly.
Automatically, you're more informed than the person that you're consulting.
Absolutely, that you've nailed it.
That brings me nicely to my next point around the more you learn, the more educated you get, as you say, the more you progress your nano degree. Let's say we've taken the next step. You're a grad, you've landed your first job. How do you make an impact in that first 90 days? What can you do to become truly indispensable to that company?
Indispensable is an interesting word. I suppose let me take it in two ways. One of our jobs is to very quickly become a trusted advisor with clients, but a trusted advisor with your colleagues, okay? And to become a trusted advisor, you need to be building perceptions about yourself around three things. So I'd say in the first 90 days of your job, I'd focus on these three things and building perceptions about yourself as being good at these three things. Number one is credibility, that people can believe what you say because you're showing you know about the stuff that you say you know about. And that's around showing people that you've read a book, you've been to a conference, you've spoken to an expert, you did some study, you read that article, read the newspapers. If you read the newspapers around your client's industry or our industry, you can bring stuff to a meeting with your boss that shows that you're knowledgeable, you're in the groove, you're one step ahead, your credibility grows. The second thing to work on is your perceptions of your reliability. And this is about keeping your promises, meeting deadlines, communicating regularly, getting the details right. Very, very important. You might be credible, but if you're unreliable, you're not going to be seen as very valuable after 90 days. And then the third thing to work on, you've got to be careful that you don't rush into this too quickly, but it is what I call intimacy. And what that means is that you're not just someone working away, on your credibility and your reliability, but you're also talking to your stakeholders, your colleagues and your bosses, and you just try to understand their drivers. What are their KPIs? What are they about? And by showing that you're responding to their hot buttons, you will get a little bit stickier with them quickly. So build your credibility, build your reliability, build your intimacy, and squash what we call self-orientation. It's not about you. It's about delivering value to your company and your clients. Take care of yourself. And if something's hurting you or someone's hurting you, shout out loud. But what I'm saying is don't be a precious person. Just lean in, work on credibility, reliability, and intimacy if you want to make a powerful impression early. Now, people do ask me, what are the drivers of success in our industry? And there's four things. And Chris, if I may quickly say what they are, because okay. Number one is try and get better and better every day in what is expected of you in your job today. Okay. Now, let me explain what I mean. If you start a job in an agency and you want to get a promotion into that role over there, don't worry about that. Just get really brilliant at doing what you've been hired to do. If you're a pastry chef at Bathurst Pavilion at Balmoral and you have a dream of being a celebrity chef on TV, the first thing you've got to do is become absolutely brilliant at pastries.
There's not a soggy patch on there. That's all the way round.
Because you get so good that one day Prince Harry tries one of them, says it's amazing, do the pastries for my wedding, and boom, you're accelerated, right? The second thing we've got to work on, and I've mentioned this before when I talked about being bold, we need to be prepared to push ourselves to the front. I'll give the after dinner talk. I'll pick the client up from the airport. I'll join the team working over the weekend to get that done. I'll write that blog post. You're just in small ways pushing yourself to the front. The third thing that we need to do, this might sound a little bit insincere, but it's not. Work on your likability. Now, every one of us, Chris, you included, we bring a little bit of trickiness in our characters, right? We're not all perfect, easy to get on people. I'm emotional and can be domineering. I get that. We've got to soften the edges of what we are. so that we're more user-friendly. Not to be unauthentic, but to be more user-friendly. If you're going to get promoted, your bosses are likely to have to spend more time with you. And if you're a difficult, emotional person, they're not going to. The final driver of success, and don't get angry with me when I say this because I'm going to explain it. You've simply got to work harder than anybody else. I'm not talking about long hours. Chris,
100%.
you know, sometimes long hours are involved in our industry, any industry, sometimes, and that's okay, so long as it's not all the time. But when I say you've got to work harder than anyone else, I mean you've got to take yourself seriously. You've got to work on delivering in your role, but you've also got to work on yourself as a project through doing things like that nano degree, by checking in on those 4 drivers of success, by thinking about your brand and what your brand's like within your organization, by working on those pillars of becoming a trusted advisor, credibility, reliability, intimacy, and squash the self-orientation, that you're thinking strategically about yourself and you're doing the extra work required to stay 5% more knowledgeable. You know, there's a saying, it's lonely on the extra mile, and it is, because there's no one else there except you, right?
That's right.
And me. Okay, so go the extra mile and work on yourself as a project. This is the best advice I can give you. And if you do that, then, and one other final point, Chris, because I only learned this late in my career and I wish I'd known it earlier. Work out quickly what you're good at and what you love doing. Now, there will be things that you're good at that you don't love doing, and you're going to have to keep doing them. But if you get better and better and better at the stuff you love doing that you're good at, that will start filling up your role. And eventually your role will be filled 90% with stuff you're good at and that you love doing. And when you do that, you're working in your element. And when you work in your element, you're energized every day, and you'll never feel like you're working. It's just a blast, and you can't believe you're getting paid for it. It's like, does Steven Spielberg turn up to work every day? No.
Yeah.
You know, does Tarantino turn up to work? No. They're in their element, doing what they love and what they're good at. Think about what it is for you early on, and then do the extra work to shine at those things, and your bosses will ask you to do more and more of it, and you will thrive.
Totally. And it's funny you say that, Chris, because as we draw to the last question of this interview, I was going to say, what advice would you give to yourself before you started? But it sounds like going the extra mile is that, but was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, there is. I mean, the one piece of advice I would have given myself is I would have taken better care of myself. And I would say that, you know, it's great to be 100%er, and it's great to throw yourselves with passion at your career, at your industry, at your roles, but make sure that you are taking deliberate oxygen. You know, when that oxygen thing falls down and the flight attendant says, give it to yourself first before giving it to other people. I've often thought, well, why would you do that? I'm going to give it to my kids, right? I asked the flight attendant once, she said, no, if you want to be strong for others, you've got to take care of yourself first. So make sure that you are doing whatever's required for you to take care of yourself. Be careful with drugs, be careful with alcohol, be careful with gambling, be careful with all those addictions, right? And I know that they can be very, very tempting, and ours is a creative industry, and you'll see that stuff around you. Be careful, look after your health, look after your mental health. I've suffered from depression, and I got very scary at one point. But as soon as I told someone that I was suffering and that I was worried, I was surrounded by love and care. So make sure, whether it's mental or whether it's physical, that you're taking care of yourself. And if you're struggling, tell someone, ask for help. We're all fighting a tough battle, and that includes you and it includes me. Our industry is a brilliant industry. It's a hard-working, fun, creative, energizing industry filled with great people, but it's also challenging, and it's hard, and it's tough, and it can be depleting. Have a great career in this industry, but take care of yourself. I needed to have done a better job. Still not great at it, but I'm a bit better today than I was as a younger person.
Brilliant. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on today and for taking part in this. It's been
Chris,
great chatting to you.
It's my pleasure. Are you okay?
Yeah, definitely. I'm more than okay. I'm super chuffed, and I'm actually relieved. I'm relieved to hear an industry leader like yourself actually be vulnerable and give that advice, because there's been so many times where I've been in company meetings and the CEO or the MDs at the front and just going like, It's all about the work hard, work for the company, do your best, be an arsehole, barge in front of people. But ultimately, you don't need to do that. To your point, yes, notch yourself forward, but not at the expense of your mental health, not at the expense of your physical health. Get sleep, get exercise, eat
Completely.
well. Don't drink too much. It's it is really great to hear that from you. So no, thank you so much for voicing that.
That's a pleasure. And I do think that in the last 5 years, industry leaders across our industry are much more aware of that now and are trying much, much harder to get that right, as they are on things like diversity and those sort of things. We've still got a long way to go, but the intent is there, and that's a good thing. Well done to you, Chris, for your initiative. All those potential people coming into our industry, give it a go, be bold, come and join us. We're having a blast.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. All the best.
Cheers, mate.